not all necessarily on a path to save the world on some grand and mythical scale. And sometimes the most difficult thing someone can do in their life is to go down that road and face whatever horrors are within you that you're avoiding, running away from, and just facing that head on. Today, I want to talk about a fictional hero, not of the Greek or Roman variety, but just one very old man. Today, I want to talk about this book, The Last Days of Ptolemy Grey. And I did have to look it up because I did not know the P was silent in Ptolemy, but apparently it is. But this is a book by Walter Mosley about a 91-year-old man with dementia who, in the very last days of his life, he goes on a kind of heroic journey to find this treasure, and he sets out to fulfill the request of his friend and mentor that he was tasked with many years ago. It's kind of hard to talk about the journey he goes on because it's multifaceted, multi-pronged. So I'll kind of start towards the end of the book and kind of take you along my train of thought in order to arrive at the point. There's a point towards the end of the book where Ptolemy, he is given this magical elixir by the devil, which I will get into, and it basically gives him the strength of body, not strength of body, but strength of mind, in order to go on this very archetypal sort of heroic journey. Like it's very fantastical in nature. So when I read it, I saw it kind of fit into a very clear sort of arc that he goes on. So he meets this young girl who revitalizes his spirit and encourages him to try to fulfill his destiny, so to speak. Together, they end up finding this doctor, the devil, who gives him this magical elixir that gives him this supernatural aid that he needs in order to go and find this treasure and use it to take care of his loved ones after he is gone. A kind of ultimate boon, an ultimate blessing for his family here. In this process, after he takes the elixir, he falls into a coma for a number of days, and while he's in this coma, he kind of traverses his own mind, which I will get back to because it's very important. And when he comes out of it, he takes his treasure, uses it to take care of his loved ones, which was a wish from his friend / mentor that was given to him when he was a young boy, and he was told to make a difference in the lives of poor Black folks. And in the course of the novel, he does that on a very small scale, but I think it is still impactful, and I do think it is still he still fulfills this wish of his deceased mentor friend. And he even has this one last hurrah where he is able to avenge the death of his nephew by killing the man who killed him, or kind of set up his murder. When I read that, as I said, it felt very archetypal in a way. It felt very easily segmented. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, this feels kind of like this very the smaller part of the book. It feels like a heroic arc. And so from that, following that train of thought, I kind of looked into it a little bit to kind of, I guess, connect the dots a little bit more. And when I was looking at things, I ended up finding this book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. And this book is kind of the culmination of Campbell's research into different myths and folklore globally, and finding kind of how they connect and finding these themes. And through that, and through collecting all these different works, his version of the heroic journey is he came up with the monomyth, which I think is very close to what Ptolemy experienced. Oh, my air conditioner! And within this framework, you have your departure, initiation, and return. So as a departure is the call to action, refusal or acceptance of the call, and the crossing of the threshold into initiation. And there's a number of different ways that the journey can go through, which I'm not going to get into. I promise I did read the book, but it's not relevant to what we're talking about here. And then like once our hero gets through these challenges, these tasks that they're faced with, and they make it through, they reach a point of a kind of spiritual enlightenment, or also or some kind of reward. It ends with some sort of like transformation. That seemed, when I was reading it, that seemed to be like a consistent thing, is that in the end there was some kind of transformation, some kind of reward, some kind of knowledge that they are able to then take and bring it back to their people, and kind of disseminate this gift, disseminate this blessing to them. After I read it, and I will admit I did not read the whole thing, I just kind of tried to read the parts that felt most relevant, and where I could kind of connect it to Ptolemy's journey. And when I read it, I felt like it did in a way mirror what Ptolemy went through, but I think also it kind of turned the light bulb on in my head, and I realized, like, although Ptolemy has this real life, very fantastical journey, heroic journey that he goes on in the final days of his life, I think his real heroic journey, like the bigger one of his entire life, or at the very least his adult, like, elderhood, it was something far more impactful for him, like in a more spiritual, introspective way. And that's kind of the journey that I want to talk about more so, because I think it was very resonant in a way. Like, I'm not a 91-year-old man in the throes of dementia, but I do think the journey he goes on is very relatable. It's very human. So I want to kind of go through that. I think the story of our hero that we have here, he's no Odysseus, he's no Hercules. He's just this, as I said, I keep saying, he's a 91-year-old man who's in the throes of dementia, who is often kind of lost in his own mind, unable to see reality from his mind, from his memories and his feelings, and all these things. They all kind of move as one, and the lines between all of these things, they're completely blurred for him. This is, like, obviously he physically he can't do very much, but I do think he does go on this very important journey where he is able to save himself and find peace in the last days of his life. But that also begs the question, what merit is there in a hero who can only save himself? Because a recurring thing for Ptolemy is this memory of this young girl in a fire, and he's unable to save her. And this is, I think, the book does not really explore this person much. I think you can take this kind of very this kind of thing that's burning him up. You can take it and kind of extrapolate it to the other people in his life who he was unable to save. So you have Coy Dog, who is his mentor and friend, who is lynched right in front of him, and at the time Ptolemy is only a boy, so he can't do anything about it. And then you have Cynthia, who was his wife, the love of his life, and she died before him, and he's had to just kind of carry that, just the weight of that grief with him. And then you have Robin, who is a young girl who he meets, who is kind of the catalyst for all the events of the novel. And he is able to, in the end, he's able to provide for her, but there's still kind of this lingering sense that he is not able to provide her what she needs, like stability in her life. He's not able to provide that because he's not going to live long enough. in order to support her in that way. I almost forgot Reggie. Reggie is his nephew who was before the events of the novel. He is his nephew who was taking care of Ptolemy, and he ends up being killed. And Ptolemy, he's unable to stop that. He's unable to save him. I don't want to forget that. So you have all these people who are passing, and he is just unable to do anything about it. And I think Ptolemy carries with him this very, very strong feeling of survivor's guilt. And that kind of clouds everything that goes on in his mind. I think it all has a sense of this guilt, this grief that he has all over it. So if you zoom out of his apartment, he just has piles and piles of things. His nephew refers to it as junk and moldy clothes. But to Ptolemy, it reads more as an archive, because you have all of these records of all these family members who have passed before him, all of his things, and in his bedroom, he's kind of turned it into kind of a tomb to his wife. His wife is not in there. His wife is not in the apartment, but it's very much, it feels like that was Cynthia's room. So he has enshrouded the whole thing in a tarp and shut the door, and he sleeps in his living room underneath, I think, a table or a chair, but just somewhere. Like, he doesn't sleep in a bed. He just sleeps like wherever he can find space. And so his whole apartment is kind of this outer manifestation of him trying his best to hold on to all of these things, hold on to all these people. He even says in the book, all my stuff is living too. So all the lives he's lived, all of the lives of his family, it's all in this place, and it's all layers and layers upon each other, and it just feels like Ptolemy, he's unable to kind of go through anything. He's unable to move anything, because he just wants to keep all of these people with him for as long as he can, even if it's to his own detriment in a way. Ptolemy had been searching for Koidog's treasure for days. He knew that he'd put it away somewhere amongst all the furniture and tools, newspapers and broken toasters, books, magazines, closed and sealed cellophane bags containing plastic cutlery wrapped in ancient paper napkins. His deep closet was piled high with boxes of papers that went all the way back to his grandfather's handwritten birth notice on the Layford rice plantation in southern Louisiana. There were also his wife's old clothes and shoes, and box after box of photographs he'd taken, collected, and gathered from family members and the children of old friends. His nephew, at some point, he asked him, "Why do you keep all this old junk, Uncle?" And Ptolemy says, "It's my whole family, boy." With his dementia, he's kind of lost sight of all these people and all these memories in his own mind, and his apartment serves as a way for him to maintain this archive and keep it all together, keep it on him, keep it with him, and keep his family, keep the memories of his family alive the best he can. And so you have like this conflict in a way between the overwhelming weight of having all these things here. It's kind of in conflict with Ptolemy's desire to find this treasure that he has in his apartment. And even if he tries to sift through it, there's just so much here. There's so many memories. There's so much history here that it's hard for him to keep it straight. Like, he can't keep it straight in his mind, and that manifests into him being unable to keep it straight in his apartment as well. So in his archive, he's become kind of trapped within it, and it's hard. Like, it feels just impossible for him to move anything, to do anything about it, because it is just so overwhelming and so overbearing on him. Like, over time, he's just gotten used to this feeling, used to this discomfort. And I think the archive is one thing, but then you also have his bathroom. So you have his bathroom, which that is another room he does not open the door to, and his toilet does not work. And so, it smells terrible. And so it's just, the door stays closed, and he just moves on with his life. I think he said he'd go to the bathroom when his nephew took him out to go to this local cafe, and that's when he would go and use the bathroom. He has this toilet that doesn't work, and I'm sure at first it was like, oh man, my toilet doesn't work. How can I fix this? What can I do about this? And as he got to a point where it felt like it was not possible to do anything about it, I think he came to a point where he just accepted it as part of his life, and he built his kind of daily routines around this discomfort and just let it live and lets it exist without interrogating it, without tackling it, without trying to fix it or anything like that. If you kind of take this and use it and see it as more of in a more metaphorical way, I think we all are kind of living with a base level of discomfort in our lives. Although you have like this uncomfortable truth that you learn to live with, I think it can always be fixed. The toilet can always be fixed, so to speak. To keep on with the toilet imagery, Robin comes along and she fixes it, and she becomes that catalyst for him. She becomes if we want to take it back to the hero book, she serves as a kind of herald for Ptolemy, like this being that calls him to action by fixing his toilet and taking that first step towards making a change and facing this uncomfortable truth head on. This very foul-smelling bathroom and clogged toilet. She faces that head on and she finds a solution, and she puts Ptolemy on the course to facing all these things that he's been living with. Besides his toilet, we're talking about his survivor's guilt, his grief. She kind of charts him on a course in order to face that head on in his own way. It is because of her that Ptolemy, he has this kind of switch in his brain in a way where he finally just finds that just small bit of motivation he needed to get up and just try to do something. It starts smaller, but then it just builds from there, where he finds this motivation that he needs to finally fulfill his destiny, to find the treasure, and to do what Koi Dog asked him to do with it all those years ago, and to also contend with his own grief, which is something that is not directly discussed in the book, but is very, very much felt, I think, and is very important to this journey that he goes on. There's a point in the book where Robin, she's cleaned his bathroom and she's like been working on his apartment, and is after she leaves where Ptolemy, he's like, he has that kind of awakening that I was just discussing, and he this starts with him opening the door to Cynthia's room. With his full strength, Ptolemy swung down on the big plastic tarp covering Cynthia's room. The triple hook sunk deep. Using both hands, the 91-year-old man began to pull. At first, there was no give. It was as if he were pulling on the knob of a locked door, but Ptolemy Grey would not give up. He twisted his shoulders for torque, let his weight work against the heft of the covering. He pulled and yanked and tugged in staccato snatches. He went down to his knees, using all the strength in his spindly shoulders. He was about to take a rest when the plastic sheet began to give. He stood up and away from the door, using both his strength and weight, and the tarp began to flow outward from the long abandoned room. "I did it," he announced triumphantly. "I pulled that bastard out of there." And what I think he's referring to here is this feeling, his grief, this monster. He's finally seeing it. He's facing it. And I didn't mention this before, but beforehand, when he would think about the room, he saw it as something very scary, very menacing, as like just something that just was too terrible and terrifying for him to face. And now he's gone and done it. He got this metal hook, and he he got in there. He pulled it out. He's coming face to face with this monster that for all these years he's just been unable to continue. He's been unable to look at it head on. Also, going back to this idea of survivor's guilt, of grief, I think when he's able to finally rip open the tarp, I think he finally finds an answer to something that he's been questioning throughout the book thus far, and he again finds the answer in his own memories. There was a point previously when he was a boy. It was after Coy Dog had been murdered, and Ptolemy he found himself unable to get out of bed because he was just so sad. There's a point where an officer comes to speak to him, and the officer asks him, like, why are you crying and looking at the floor? And Ptolemy says, because my friend is dead, sir. He's dead, and he was the person I loved the most in the whole world. This point where he's recounting the memory, it comes soon after the tarp. So I mean, I could easily argue that the two are connected. This feeling of grief and survivor's guilt, he felt it all those years ago when Coy Dog was murdered, and he's feeling it now, that he's kind of coming face to face with the very real fact that his wife is gone, who he loved her. I think he loved her almost as much as he loved Coy Dog. It was like the two people who he loved most in the world who are no longer with him. He has to accept that they're dead and they're gone, and all he's just left here living with the love he has for them, and nowhere for it to go, and it just kind of comes back to him as this grief and this guilt around their passings. Now that he's kind of opened this door, he's freed himself from just the weight of this guilt, of this grief, and so he can finally, continue to on this path to fulfilling his heroic arc. I think what he's feeling here, and what he's kind of contending with, it's as I said, like, it is heroic in a way, although it's not like as fantastical as finding this treasure and all the like this very like a mythological sort of heroic journey. It is still like it's very human. It's very resonant in that way. Now that I've talked about that and like laid that out, I want to circle back to the heroic arc that I mentioned in the beginning. So as I said, there's a point in the novel where Ptolemy he meets this doctor who he calls the devil, who gives him what is essentially like an experimental treatment, and the doctor tells him basically that like other participants, they haven't survived this. But I would like to try it on you. And by the time Ptolemy reaches this point, all of the fear and apprehension he had towards anything unfamiliar, anything different, it's completely gone. And so when he meets this man, and he sees him as the devil, and he sees it, he's not afraid of him though. He's facing this devil, and he's going to take the treatment. Because he knows that this is just what he's going to do. Like I think he's come to a point where he's like, well, I know I'm dying. I know that my mind isn't what it is, and he's able to face this head on, because the worst thing that the even worse thing that he was kind of fighting and running away from all these years, he was able to face that. So you're just the devil at this point. Like to him, like you're just a devil with this medication, this treatment, and that like whatever could possibly happen to me, that doesn't scare me because I've already faced something that was much, much worse. Although there is a level of mystery, there is a level of the unknown that Ptolemy has to face, he does it, and he takes this treatment and he falls into a coma. And as he's in this coma, he kind of traverses his own memories. As we go through it, he kind of is like, he's in a way, he's in the memory, but he's also kind of flying over it. So it kind of feels like he's surveying these memories and just kind of seeing everything again with fresh eyes. The two people who he sees in this memory are Coy Dog and his wife Cynthia. So he has this memory of fishing with Koi Dog, and then Koi Dog showing him where this treasure that he has, where he has it. That also ends up being the night that Koi Dog is lynched and Ptolemy is with him. So the night that he shows him the treasure, Koi Dog is lynched and Ptolemy is there. He goes back into Sky and goes on to the first day that he met Cynthia before they were married, and it kind of gives us a kind of a brief look into their love story. I wouldn't call it a love story. It was honestly a little bit toxic, but I support women's wrongs. So even though she was a toxic one, I still support her because she was a woman who went after what she wanted, and I will always respect that, even if her actions were kind of she's kind of in the wrong. It kind of takes us through kind of their like a brief look into how their love story began, and then it takes us to Ptolemy finding her deceased and burying her and losing his wife. The biggest memories he goes through involve having these joyful, happy memories with Koi Dog and Cynthia, but then also the experience of their death. Even though he's coming face to face with these memories and he's seeing them, there no longer is this fear. There's no more fire. There's no longer kind of this sense of dread. Like he kind of surveys all of these memories quite peacefully, I think, in the just the overall vibe of the book at this point. It all feels he feels very much at peace with kind of the life he was able to share with these people, and then also losing him. I think he's come to terms with that, and he's kind of accepted it all as the truth, accepted it all as just another piece of his memory archive in a way. When he comes out of it, he's no longer feeling this weight of the grief. He's no longer feeling this sadness. He comes out of it and he's ready to get up and go and get his affairs in order and do what he needs to do with the treasure, figure out what happened to his nephew, figure out how he died, and just kind of put everything in order in the way it needs to go before he's gone. And he comes out like he's very confident. The treatment works temporarily. The treatment works, and he's able to think clearly and able to see things for what they are, and think back in his memories, like everything's clear, like everything's refreshed, everything's like just so like open wide to him. And ironically enough, when he's kind of under the influence of this treatment, he talks about like kind of feeling like this fire in his veins, and like feeling this like searing pain. And I found it ironic because fire is very much a theme consistently throughout that. In kind of the first half of our book, it was more so connected to his grief, connected to his survivor's guilt, connected to his fear, connected to his frustration with not being able to remember things. And now it's kind of like it is the life force that's revitalizing him temporarily, even though it's also slowly killing him. But it's at this moment, it's something that is giving him that force, that energy, that supernatural aid. If we want to take it back to the hero book, it is kind of a supernatural aid in a way that helps him along on this part of his journey. By this point, we kind of can circle back to the arc that I discussed at the beginning, where he gets the treasure from under his floorboards, goes to see his accountant, gets all his ducks in a row, and all that stuff, figures out what happened to Reggie and all those things. And he goes through this whole arc, and it circles back to him being in his bed and Robin talking to him. And at this point, he's kind of the treatment has wore off, and he's dying and slipping away. But at this point, there's no more fire, there's no more fear. There's just him and Koi Dog on this hill fishing. It is just peace There's no more pain. There's no more confusion. There's no more anything. There's just peace with what was, and now what is for him. He's able to go on two kind of concurrent hero's journeys where he's able to fulfill the last wish of his greatest friend, and take care of this young girl who he meets and feels this very strong kind of kinship to. He's able to avenge his nephew who took care of him in his last days, and was tragically killed. But then he's also able to come face to face with his own grief, his own survivor's guilt, and he's able to stop running away from that very scary and confusing and frustrating and sad feeling, and he's able to face this head on and come to peace with what he's lost, but also find peace in the memories that he's able to share specifically with Cynthia and Coy Dog, and he's able to kind of leave this earth with all of his ducks in a row and leave kind of with some semblance of peace. He's able to leave this earth. He's able to leave this life. I mean, I'd wager a guess that most of us, we don't have any gold under our floorboards. We don't have any gold under our floorboards, but I do think many of us, all of us, not to be presumptuous, but I would say all of us have something that we're running away from. It could be something very big, something very minor, but we all have our problems and our issues that we're just like, it's never the right time to face it. It's never the right time to contend with it. It's never the right time to deal with it. As we saw with Ptolemy, there's some things that are simply out of our control. You may not be able to save the world, but I do think there's always enough time to save yourself. There's always enough time to kind of cross that threshold into something that's unknown, into something that's scary. And I didn't discuss it much, but another kind of theme that I saw throughout the book is this notion of time. And for Ptolemy, time became something that was very much blurred. Like it was no longer linear. It was no longer measurable. And I think time is something that you could easily weaponize it against yourself. So when you feel like you don't have enough time, there's no time to kind of deal with this thing. There's no time to face it, because there's always so much more to do. There's so many more important things to do. But then you also, on the other hand, if you have too much time, you always have the time to lament over things. You have the time to kind of push them to the side, because I don't want to deal with this today. I'll just deal with it tomorrow. I'll start therapy tomorrow. I'll start exercising tomorrow. I'll start my new diet in the new year. Like there's always it can feel like simultaneously we always have too much time and not enough. I challenge you to not see time as something that is so incredibly limited, but also so incredibly limitless. Because I think both ends of that, you can use them simultaneously to kind of weaponize time against yourself. So I challenge you to face that new thing that you're putting off, that you're afraid of, that you don't know how to start, you don't know how to deal with it. Maybe you feel this deep bad feeling, you don't know how to face it. Just start with something small. I challenge you to find whatever it is that you need to conquer and start on your journey, on your heroic journey. Because as I said, everyone's a hero. We're not all going to save the world. We don't all need to save the world. Sometimes the best thing you can do in this world is save yourself and try to be your best self, and try to chase those things that you're curious about, but kind of scare you at the same time. And just do your best to kind of just go out there and face the unknown and leave no stone unturned, so to speak. Because I think there are so many scary things in the world, but I think one of the scariest things you can do is to hide from your own self, hide from your best self, and put them away under a tarp, beneath your floorboards, in the bathroom. There's nothing scarier than just trying to do your best to not look yourself straight in the eye. So I guess I'll leave you to ponder these things, and chart your own monomyth. So yeah, that's all I got. If you have any thoughts about Mr. Ptolemy Grey or Joseph Campbell, if you've read this was dense. And I'm not even gonna lie, my bookmark's still in here. I've only read half of it because it's dense. The language is hard for me, but I did my best. I probably have to read it again. But if you read this, if you understood it better than me, maybe tell me what you think about it. If I got the gist of it correctly. If you've read The Last Days of Ptolemy Grey, what do you think about either of them? If you've read both, is there a connection? Is Ptolemy a hero? Are we heroes? Whatever thoughts you have, I would really like to know. But yeah, thanks for hanging out.